हे praan naath govinda kripa nidhan jagad guru. हे संसार ताप हरणह करुणा मैं सब दुख हरो. हे शरण जोग दयालै दीना नाथ मिया करो. शरीर स्वस्थ खीण समय सिमरंत नानक राम दामोदर माधव. शरीर स्वस्थ खीण समय सिमरंत नानक राम दामोदर माधव. वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह. संगत जी, we've all just listened to the 50th slok from the Bani of Salok Sehaskriti, blessed to us by Dhੰਨ Guru Arjan Dev Ji Sache Paatshah. Guru Arjan Dev Ji Paatshah Ji in this slok, after speaking to us about the chor, the thieves, after speaking to us about that, the commander ego, how it gets hold of us and a grip of us. But now Satguru Ji Paatshah Ji here in this slok is doing a benti to Vaheguru Ji, putting that request forward, begging before Vaheguru Ji. And what is Paatshah Ji saying here? Saying, He praan naath govinda. Saying, He praan, He meaning Hey, referring to Vaheguru Ji. And saying, Vaheguru Ji, praan naath. Naath, if we translate naath, literally it will translate to master. Saying that, Hey praan naath, you are the one that is in control of my breath. So if we just translate it literally to say the master of my breath, sometimes it doesn't speak to us much and say much to us. Saying that, Hey Vaheguru Ji Gobinda. Gobinda, the one that Sangat Ji, Go means dharti, the earth, Binda. Binda can be translated to that bind, that little seed, the primal seed that everything has come from, that is you, Vaheguru Ji. Everything has come from you. So it's you that is even control of this breath, of it coming and going. He praan naath Gobinda, Kirpa Nidhan. Hey Vaheguru Ji, you are Kirpa Nidhan. Nidhan meaning treasure. You hold the treasure of what? The treasure of Kirpa, of grace. Jagat Guru. And Vaheguru Ji, you are the Jagat, Jagat meaning the world, Guru, that you are the Guru of the whole entire world. Sanji, what does it mean that Vaheguru Ji is the Guru of the entire world? Because even though there's different people of this world that take on different gurus, but the truth is there's that one ultimate Guru that sits inside of all of us. Vaheguru Ji is in the form, one of the Shaktis of Vaheguru Ji is in the form of Vaheguru as well. And that Vaheguru that sits in us as our personal Guru inside. But we need an external Guru to help us to connect with our inner Guru, the one that guides us. Sangat Ji Paatshah Ji saying, Kende, He sansar taap hārṇah. That who are you? What are your abilities? I'm doing benti, I'm begging before that one. That you are that one, Vaheguru Ji, that sansar meaning the entire world. Sansar taap hārṇah. Taap, Sangat Ji, means fever. But we'll look into that a little bit deeper in a minute. Because we obviously know that taap here, even though it's translated, that's the way you're going to see it translated on the screen as well. But we're thinking that hārṇah means to take away. You are the one that takes away my fever. And I'm thinking, all right, mate, I haven't got a fever. My temperature's all right. I don't need you to take anything away from me, because obviously, so we know it doesn't mean that type of fever. Or when our bodily temperature has risen. That's only a very small part of this word. So let's look at this deeper, Sangat ji. Hey sansar taap harne, you are that one that can take away all the taap, all the sufferings. So a better way, instead of taap would be the literal translation. And what I would say is that when we look at these type of translations, instead of just translating it literally, it'd be better to put something like suffering over here. So to say that he sansar taap harne, harne means haran kar lena, to take something away from us. That Vaheguru ji kende karuna main. So over first we had kirpa nidan. You are the treasure of grace. But now we're saying you are karuna main, because before that grace comes in, before your kirpa flows into me, there's something else that happens to you first, Vaheguru ji. And even though we're making it sound as if Vaheguru ji is a person here, but it's obviously not like that. It's just saying to us, before grace actually comes in, what positions do we get into? What position do we need to get into first? How do we need to place ourselves first? For that, how does that whole system work? Vaheguru ji's Qudrat work, Shakti work. Before that, Sangat ji, is when that Shakti, when that vibration, when that Vaheguru ji energy, Sangat ji, is Karuna man, meaning takes pity on us. You are the one that takes pity on us. You are the one, but not in a negative way. When somebody, or when you pity someone, not like that. It's Karuna man is from compassion. You look at me from the eyes of compassion, because you can now see that I'm in pain. You can see that I'm suffering. But Sangat ji, until we don't actually acknowledge that I am suffering and turn to that one, then we won't actually experience the grace. Until we don't actually come into that nimarta, until we don't become humble and actually say that this is where I am and now I need you, Sangat ji. And that's when we turn around, and this is Sadhguru ji Pachi acknowledging and saying that when you get to such a place in your life, when you're suffering so immensely, when you're in such deep suffering, in that time, often what do we end up saying to Vaheguru ji? We end up saying things like, oh, meri kismat ya, oh, this is my karma. And we end up saying things like, Vaheguru ji, like, how comes I had to go through this pain? Why do I have to put up with this? Vaheguru ji, I suppose it's your hukam. Manana pehna ya. It's your will, Vaheguru ji, I have to accept it. And we say it like that. And I've even heard people saying things like, it was your fault. I wouldn't be suffering if it wasn't for you, if you had taken more care of me. And so often our mind, it works that way. It's constantly looking at, and what we end up doing is we end up trying to work out how and why. Why am I suffering? Why did this happen to me? What could be the cause? How did I end up in this place? Why me? And then we're constantly, Vaheguru ji, I have to accept it. It's your will. But how comes you picked me? Why are you showing me this pain? Oh, it must have been, was it something I did in my last life? What? And so even though we try and say the right things sometimes from outside, we might try and say that, it's all kirpa, it's all grace, but from inside there's that pain saying, why me? And Sangat ji, in that way, we're not actually doing this benti then. So we're not actually saying what Guru Arjan Dev Ji Pachi is teaching us to do. They are saying that this is where you want to be. You want to be saying, Karuna man. Kende, hey Vaheguru ji, the one that is full of compassion And when you look at somebody in suffering and pain, you take that pity on them. Kende sab dukh haro, you are the one that takes away all pains and suffering. So what is it? What types of sufferings are there? Because when we look at the word taap, Sangaji's fever, no, it's not the right way of looking at it. It's not the only way of looking at it, because Satguru Ji Path Ji will say to us in Gurbani, they say, Tine taap nivaran hara, dukh hanta sukh ras. Path Ji say to us in Bani, kende ke Tine taap nivaran hara, that Waheguru Ji is that one that takes away all our three types of taap, three types of, again they've put here fevers. It's three types of sufferings here, three ways that we could be suffering. Tine taap, and that's why here, just to look at the word taap, we need to go into more, we need to jump into it a little bit more. Tine taap nivaran hara, dukh hanta, you are the destroyer of pain. Sukh ras, you are the one that fills me with peace. Tako bigna kau lage, Janki prab aage ardas. Path Ji saying, kende tako bigna kau lage, kende that no big and no obstacle come in your way when you put your request before Waheguru Ji. Sangat Ji, let's look at these Tine taap. What are these three types of fevers? They're not fevers, are they? Three types of sufferings. Okay, so if we just focus and just, if we have back on the screen the actual Salok Pangati, that He sansar taap hਰਣਹ, karuna mein sab dukh haro. So there's three types of suffering, Sangat Ji. The first type is when Sache Paatsh Ji, they talk to us about, and then when we look further into it, is Aad. So we've got Aad, and then we've got Byad, and we've got Upadh. So these three. So if anybody, I know some people actually make notes of these kathas, so I'll say that again. I know, even though you can go back and forth later on. So there's Aad, and then there's Byad, and then there's Upadh. Sangat Ji, the first one, Aad, is Mansak Rog. Mansak Rog, Sangat Ji, means the suffering of the mind, and which I feel is the most important one to actually focus on, is the suffering of the mind that goes on in the mind. That could be anxiety, that could be stress, that just could be uncontrolled thoughts, that could be trauma, and then stress from trauma. So, but then we've got Byad. Byad, Sangat Ji, is Sarirak Rog, is then the physical diseases, physical ailments with the actual body itself, you know, with the organs, with the brain itself and the heart, all these type of then bamariyan. And then we've got Upadh. Upadh is the more complicated one, and it's translated as param, as it's translated as a doubtful mind and an argumentative mind. And the way I will actually separate that from the first one, from Mansak Rog, and having even though they both related with the mind, but the first mind one is, like I said, more like stress, anxiety. But the third one, param, is when you're constantly in doubt and you're always confused about things, always arguing about things. So that in itself leads to then Mansak Rogs. That they all are interlinked. That in itself leads to then Mansak Rog. So to the diseases of the mind. So we need to know what it is and how Waheguru Ji actually gets rid of some of these diseases. Some of them we have to live out, and some of them that we could actually get rid of. So we know there's a huge connection now between these two, between Mansak and then through Sarirak. So there's a huge link between diseases of the mind and diseases of the body. Sangat Ji, I was reading an article where it was an actual study carried out by scientists of Harvard Medical Center. So obviously we all know Harvard's quite a known, for its education. And in that study, what they had found was that people that have actually experienced a form of trauma. So remember, trauma is here, the first one, Upadh. The Tap, 3 taps, first one, Upadh, mind. So if we look at trauma, because it's a Mansik Rog, and how can trauma come about in somebody's life? So they're saying some of the main things that they noted was that trauma can be experienced from, some people experience it during childhood. So during childhood, it could be physical abuse, it could be sexual abuse, it could be emotional abuse, and it can also be where you have witnessed domestic violence, and so you've been experiencing all of this. And during that time, you may not have actually taken it on as a form of trauma. Obviously, most people would be too young to even acknowledge what is going on with them. At that time, they may have even felt that what is happening is actually okay. They didn't even know it's something negative or something wrong. So Sangaji, but then it's about perception. The effects are there within the mind of what we have been exposed to. And then what could happen is, it's how we perceive that actual episode in our life. So somebody could have been, they may have witnessed parents going through a divorce. And this isn't only trauma, it doesn't only happen for children. Obviously, it can happen in adulthood as well. So somebody could have gone through an accident and that became their trauma. And obviously we know that a lot of the soldiers that were taking part in the front line of fighting in wars and went out to Iraq, the soldiers that went out from England, from Britain and from USA, they suffered tremendously when they went back. And when you're witnessing, for example, like I was talking about, and the moment it's perceived, the way we perceive it within our mind is when the trauma then actually begins. But these are normally some of the main things where a lot of trauma actually stems from and comes from. Constantly watching somebody else argue. And then eventually, and then they've been able to actually make a link that from Upadh, so from Upadh Rog, from Manska Rog, from the disease of the mind, then when that becomes that stress, that trauma, and then it will lead into the saying, then they found a huge link in it actually manifesting into our body. Why? Because we don't realize that the body is in constant fear. And living in constant fear, or living in that guilt, regret, all these suppressed emotions, and remember, it's like a car. So imagine an engine that is on, and an engine is being revved, and constantly being revved, that engine, we know it's going to burn out eventually. Because it can only go for a certain amount of time. A cam belt of a car can only last for so long, and eventually it will snap if it's not changed. And in the same way, if that trauma is inside, that stress is inside, and now stress is due to so many things. Many people have got stress of finances. Many people have got stress of their children, of how well are they going to do in education. And as these stresses build up in our mind, that is the Upadh Rog, so Tap. And then, because our system is constantly working, we might not even know consciously that it's not actually, the engine's not off from inside, it's constantly working, the adrenal glands, everything else is going. Eventually, then it will actually start to affect the body. And then they say that they found a huge link in things like to as extreme as stroke, cardiovascular diseases, then you've got heart attacks. There's a link with diabetes, all of these different things, even up to cancer. So, Tap, Manasik Rog, anxieties, depression, all of these different things, and a lot of them then, like I said, spill over to Biyad. So looking at Biyad on its own now. Biyad on its own, so physical issues, ailments. So we know that diabetes could have been because of lifestyle choices. And somebody might be thinking, what's going on? A bit of a science lesson here, isn't it? Actually, no, this is no different to the things that Maharaji talked to us about. So we've already covered in the sloks where Maharaji talk about that, the more we get kind of caught up in our lifestyles of Bogang meaning that, so when we look at the sloks of Janmangta, Maranang, Harkhangta, Sogang, and then Pogangta, Rogang, Pachaji saying from Pog, then we get what? We get Rog. The more we indulge into the pleasures and things that we, in the enjoyment of pleasures of things, and then Pachaji tell us there's a clear link between that. And we know today that many of things, even though somebody will say that, well, I could not escape this physical disease because it was my genes, it was genetic. And even if you look at that now, there's been so much study done in that, there's actually not that many diseases where you are guaranteed to get that disease because of, even if you've got those particular genes. But instead, yes, you may have more of a chance, but it depends if you give your body the right conditions. When I say right, I mean the right conditions to get that disease. You've got to give it the right conditions for you to then get that. And those conditions could be stress. Because of stress, then yes, you end up with that. That could be then lifestyle, what you are eating, your diet. That's why Pachaji say, Pogang ta rogang, if we look at it, there's plenty of pangtiyan that tell us, Mitha karke khaya, Kauda upajya sad. They're saying that you was enjoying it so much at the time, you wasn't paying attention to what you was consuming, how you was living, what you was actually eating. Pachaji say to us, kende mitha karke khaya, kende kauda upajya sad. Kende you ate it at that time thinking it's so sweet. It might not be an actual sweet thing here. It could be something fried, but it seemed sweet to you from inside because you enjoyed the taste of it. So in that way it was sweet. So ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਉਦੋਂ ਤਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਵਾਦਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਖਾਦਾ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਮਿੱਠਾ ਕਰਕੇ ਖਾਇਆ ਕੌੜਾ ਉਪਜਿਆ, but it then turned bitter for you. It's not that as you was eating it, but when it says it turns out to be bitter, it means that it turns on you eventually because of the effect that it has on your body. Sangaji, just yesterday I started watching, I think it's called The Rich Life, and it's talking about how there's this great huge movement now of turnaround in, even if you look at the people in the hip-hop industry, if you look at even rappers, because they've lost so many people, so many friends within that industry because of their lifestyle choices of eating late, eating out, and being on the road, and the way they live their life with stress and, you know, getting caught up in gangs and all sorts of other things and drugs. But now when they've lost so many friends to obesity now, not just drugs and crimes linked to gangs, and where we know that the likes of people like Tupac and, you know, or these type of people, they were actually shot. But nowadays they're losing these hip hop singers to obesity because of what they're consuming and eating things that are always fried. But then Pachaji saying to us, kende taap is the second type, is the Biyad. So the Biyad, Sangatji, is that Sarirak Rog that comes from our lifestyle choices of what we are consuming, and it could be environment as well. Environment could be that we work in such a place, somebody may have been exposed to materials like might have been exposed to certain type of materials, and because of that it's affected them later, certain types of dust, and later on it's affected the lungs. So environmental, that's how we get Biyad as well. So Biyad is hugely linked with the mind, but it's lifestyle choices as well. But what we're going to remember is even if the lifestyle choices aren't great, but if somebody is constantly stressed and unhappy, the way food reacts in your body is very much dependent on your mind as well. So you'll find some people that exercise, eat very healthy, but are still always ill because they're always stressed and they're eating out of fear. So Sangaji, there's another study done which I read years ago, that you can be eating something that's really healthy, but you're eating it because you're out of fear, because you're scared that you're going to get a disease, and that's why you're eating healthy, so your mind isn't relaxed, so you're eating the right foods, but that fear of something's going to happen to me is then making the way that food reacts in your body negative. See how the mind, the Adh and Vyad, they work together. Tine Tap, Nivaran Hara. Pachaji over here is talking in this Salok. So just like where am I? Here I am. So here Sansar Tap Hārṇh, the one that gets rid of our sufferings, but we're going to know what these sufferings are. So hopefully Sangatji, that these are things that when we're going through this type of trauma, so we don't always want to let go of it, because we say that obviously I should feel like this. How do you expect me to get over this? You'll never understand. But I went through sexual abuse, you'll never get it. So what we're actually saying is, when we say that type of statement, that I'm going to hold on to it, it doesn't mean we don't address it. It doesn't mean we don't take action. But when we're saying of course I'm going to feel like this, I'm going to feel angry, and I'm going to feel frustrated, I'm going to feel, stressed out. Zangaji, I'll share something that I remember that happened to someone that I was very close to, because of the non-acceptance of not being able to have a child in their life, and then having a difficult relationship with their partner. It built up to so much stress within their mind. So non-acceptance is a mansak rog. So is the Adh. Is Adh meaning it's a mental disease of when we're not able to accept something in life. So wasn't able to accept of not being able to have children, and then the relationship wasn't great as well. So that was another stress factor. Non-acceptance, stress, eventually affected the body and the actual nervous system to that extent that their hands had twisted, their feet had twisted, and they couldn't walk anymore. When they were trying to look for the cause, there wasn't one. The only thing they could trace it back to was stress. And then this person, it took months, then the body had to be manipulated through massages and through the grace of saints and gurmukhs and gursikhs, and doing seva of the charu in a darbar sahib, and then eventually having to learn how to walk again. But when did it happen? When this person was able to get out of that. So just quickly covering the third one, which is Sangatji, then the Upadh meaning that doubtful mind. Always being argumentative. So even when we're under param, duality and doubt, and then we're working under, so all our panj chor, so when we are constantly angry, arguing, get greedy, all of those are classed as then the third type of tap. So tap, now when you look at the word, you'll say, it ain't a bakar, mate. It's not a fever. Then you'll remember back and say, whoa, it's a lot more. So yes, it is a lot more, Sangatji. And then so Pachaji is saying here that we don't end up praising Waheguruji during this time when we're suffering, because there's a huge link in when somebody, especially chronic diseases, somebody will have general bodily pains, and that comes again from stress and trauma. So, but then it's a vicious cycle, because then chronic pain ends up causing depression for a lot of people and anxiety for a lot of people every time, because then they go to sleep thinking, I hope I don't have the pain in the morning. The moment they're already anxious, so they're waiting for it in the morning, and when you wake up, You may not even have had that pain, but because you mentally then create that pain because you were so afraid of getting that pain. Look at that vicious cycle. It's a horrible place to be in. But we don't end up praising, and we end up saying things like, how come this is happening to me? What's going on? It was because of you. It's because of that happened to me in my life. This is what the cause is. Instead, but Baj is saying, look, have you tried this? Because remember, even if somebody's gotten biad, somebody has got a physical problem, and yes, your patience reduced, you're more irritative. Even if somebody's just got a normal headache, how much does your level of patience decrease? But Sangaji, over here, one thing to remember is, even if somebody has got an actual physical ailment, which even that is possible to be, that can be healed. But even if it's something like, just say it was actually down to genetics and it can't be, there's one thing that we can control, we can get rid of, even if the physical problem can't get rid of, and that's our mind. Our mind can definitely be fixed. If our mind's in a good place, and our mind comes to a place of acceptance and our mind becomes joyful, then that physical ailment cannot lead us, that chronic pain cannot lead us into depression then. Because once the mind is okay, then we're okay anyway. Because then if somebody asks us, even if we're in pain physically, when somebody asks us how you doing, we'll say, I'm good, kirpa, feeling really happy. So Sangat Ji Pach Ji saying, kende ke He sansar taap harne karuna main sab dukh haro. You can get rid of all of these taap for me when you pity me. But kende he sharan jog diyal hai. Kende you've got jog, you've got the ability to protect me from all of these issues and these problems that I end up getting myself into. All this type of suffering. You've got the ability to protect me, Waheguru Ji, diyal hai, and you are kind, you are compassionate, Waheguru Ji. Deena naath meya karo. Shower me with your meya. Show me that, Waheguru Ji, open me so I can experience your meya, your pity and your compassion, Waheguru Ji. But for me to do that, I've got to become deen. Deen means, hey Waheguru Ji, I know you are compassionate and I don't beg before anyone else, and I still praise you. You are the greatest, Waheguru Ji. I'm not questioning that it's your fault. I'm not saying, why have you done this? That doesn't come to my mind at all. All that's in my mind is, I know I've got faith, Waheguru Ji. I go inside and I say that meya karo, shower me with your kindness and take away these rogues, these diseases of the mind. And where all of this is coming from, if you are able to help me get through this, Waheguru Ji, of course you can. But I've got to go to you first. I've got to become that deen first. I've got to become like that innocent child first that cries before you and not moans before you, but cries before you in a positive light, in saying that, Waheguru Ji, there is no one as kind as you. Waheguru Ji, that I didn't even come to you before. Instead, I was actually annoyed at you. And I was saying, how can this happen to me? Why did that happen to me? Why did you let me get abused? Because the moment I dropped that, all these type of questions in my head, and I realized that Waheguru Ji isn't a person like that. That Waheguru Ji is Nirlep, is detached from everything and isn't controlling everything in that way. But I realize that if I'm in the right place, I'll be able to feel, I'll be able to experience, not feel emotionally, maaf karna, to correct myself. I'll be able to experience your daya, and within your daya, that my pains of my mind will start to go. The suffering of my mind, I will not be able to change what happened to me, because I cannot go back in time and take that out of my life. But what I can do is, the way I'm suffering in my mind from the way I perceived what happened to me, the way I'm looking at it, I can change that. I can come to that realization that it doesn't matter what's happened to me. Where my mind's concerned, I can still be okay. But because why should I, if somebody else created that grief for me, why should I give them that honor? Why should I give them, listen to this very carefully, why should I give them the honor to allow me to continue to suffer? I've got a right as a human being to experience Anand, bliss in my life. And Vaheguruji, I know that if I show my vulnerability to you, Vaheguruji, inside of me, and if I open my heart to you, and I still praise you, and I still, Vaheguruji, you are compassionate, I'll then experience your compassion because I've become Deen now. I've become this innocent child before you now. And you will then get rid of my pains for me. Dukh haro. Because that is the nature of Vaheguruji. He sharan jog dayala. That you have got the ability to protect me, Vaheguruji, through your compassion. Dina naath mea karo. That become my naath, become that master, become that one that takes me in, become my parent, Vaheguruji. Sarir savastha. And this is a benti. I'm begging you, Vaheguruji, that no matter what state I'm in, whether sarir savastha, whether that I'm in good health, whether even if I do start to suffer slightly mentally, even if I do start to suffer physically, sarir savastha, but during that time when everything's all good, or keen samay, keen sangaji means when something starts to get destroyed, or it starts to, keen means to become less, meaning keen samay, even when I start to suffer, sangaji, even then simrant nanak naam damodar madhava, that let me remain in your remembrance. Let me remain in your meditation, Vaheguruji. Never let me come away from you. Even if I'm all good, even if I'm suffering, let me continue to meditate on you. Never take that away from me, Ram. Hey Vaheguruji, Ram, the one that is immersed in everything. Damodar. Damodar was a name that was used for Krishnji, but here it's been used for Vaheguruji. Madhava. Madhava means, hey, Mayada Pati, the one, the husband to all this illusion, the creator of the illusion. That's what Madhava means. Charan Kamal Sharanang Ramanang, saying that, hey, Vaheguruji, that Charan Kamal Sharanang, that I take the sanctuary of your lotus feet, Vaheguruji, Ramanang, that I always meditate on your name, on your Charana. Charana here meaning on your name, Vaheguruji. I continue to meditate on your name. Gopal Kirtana, and I continue to praise you. No matter what I go through in life, there's certain things that can't be controlled, that certain situations that can't be controlled, but I still continue to praise you because it will keep my mind healthy. Sad Sangain Taranang. Then how am I saved? I'm saved in the Sangat, in the company of the saints. Taranang, that's how I'm saved. Taranang means to be saved. Nanak Mahasagar Pa Dutra. That in this Mahasagar, Mahasangaji Sagar means this, the ocean. Sagar meaning the ocean of this world, in this being in this life. Pa, it can be very frightening because of all the attachments within this, in this world. Not being able to accept so many things. Dutra means this difficult ocean to get across. Maha, not just difficult a little bit, but Maha meaning it's greatly difficult. And Sangaji, but I can be saved in the company of the holy. Kende sir mastak rakhya par brahman, kende sir mastak rakhya. Sangaji, that you, Vaheguruji, I recognize now that you are my protector. And to understand this, because over here, Guru Arjan Dev Ji Pacha is going to go through that you are the protector of my head, of my mastak, of my forehead, of my hast, of my hands, of my kaya, of my body. Rakhya, you protect all of these things. Parmeshwara, Parmeswara. Sangaji, so when the Vava is in the pair, it's not said as a full ver, it's said more of a ver, more of a W. And it's Parmeswara, Parmeswara. And then the ha that is mukta at the end of the word, you add a dulama to it, to the ha. So it's Parmeswara. So then you've got the lav on the mamma, so it's Parmeswara. So quick little Santhya lesson there as well, Sangatji. Pacha is saying that you are the protector of, and then when we look at this like that, we're thinking, what's going on? What do you mean you protect my head, protect my forehead? And then saying that Atam Rakhya, you protect my Atam, you protect my mind as well. Atam here doesn't mean soul, it means mind. I don't know what it's translated to here in the, so Atam Rakhya, my Lord and Master, save my soul, not my soul, Sangaji, my mind. Okay, that mind, that jeev, with that mind that where all my memory is stored from my actions that I do, that actually travels with me. The mind that is that jada ondaya ta jandaya, the one that travels and goes into the next body, to the next body, that mind here. Sangat ji, that Pacha ji saying here to us kende that, and then Atam Rakhya, Gopal Swami, Tan, my wealth, Charan, my feet. And it's like, what's going on here? Sarv Rakhya, everything, you are the protector of everything of mine. Gurdayale pa duk binasane, you are the one that destroys all my pains. Sangaji, okay, let's make sense of this now. No, I wasn't going to just leave it at that, don't worry. Sangaji, sorry, I'm in a bit of discomfort with my stomach, and that's why a bit tilla jaya program. But Sadhguru Ji Pacha ji kirpa karan, himmat bakshan, and the Sangat Asisa baksho. Bless me with your, shower me with your blessings, Sangat Ji Asisa. We're able to carry on and do the Katha. Bhagat Vachala Anath Nathe. This is what it's all about. He's saying that Bhagat Vachal, that you, Vaheguru Ji, are the Vachal, meaning the lover of the Anath, and you are the Nathe, you are the master of the masterless, the one that hasn't got anybody, that want those that inside that feel alone, that don't feel that they've got anyone in this life, in this world. Can you become theirs? But what are you the lover of? Bhagat, Bhagati, of devotion. Sangaji, it's saying that when I devote myself to you, Vaheguruji, when I don't actually have now my hopes on anybody else in this world, and my hopes are only on you, Vaheguruji, sabbo aase teri baitha, that we all sit in your hope, Vaheguruji, and that now that I completely have devoted myself to you, all my love and faith is in you now, Vaheguruji. When that happens, when my devotion is completely you, then you will look after me, then you will protect me. You will protect me how? Then Sangatji Charan Kamal Maaf karna sir mastak rakhya par brahman. Then Sangatji sir mastak. Then you will take care of my sir. Sir meaning my head. Head meaning all that is from my neck and above. Sangatji meaning you will take care of here, of my entire, my main senses are here in the top part. You will take care of what I did, you will protect me. Once I devote you, you will protect my eyes. What my eyes actually then look at. The way my eyes look at something and the way they perceive something. You will be the protector of that. You now will not let these eyes then perv. You will not let these eyes then check out the other people's body. Instead, in these eyes, you will protect them, and you will, once I devote myself to you, I devote my eyes to you, you will then allow these eyes only to look at a sister, to a mother, as a daughter. You'll protect them in that way. You will only let these eyes look at the jot, look at your reflection in everything and everyone. You protect these senses, these ears. You only allow these ears to listen to the truth. You protect them in that way. Because once you protect these eyes and these ears, what I allow my eyes to look at, what I allow my ears to look at, listen to, maaf karna, what I allow this tongue, it's a Gyan Indri. Maaf karna, and it's not just a Gyan Indri, but it's a Karma Indri as well. The tongue has got the ability to speak. The voice box, it creates sound. And then this tongue helps us to speak and get words out. You protect me from what I say with this tongue. Whether I hurt someone, whether I say something spiteful, or whether I speak dirty about somebody else's body. Sangat ji, then in that way, sir mastak rakhya, this is why we read this before. This is a part of the Rakhya de Shabad. Before we go to bed, it's a benti. If we're not there yet, it's a benti to say, let me do your bhakti, that you protect, Vaheguruji, protect my head. Meaning, protect my brain in the kind of thoughts I have in here, in my mind. Protect my sir mastak. Protect you are the protector of it. Oh, we can do it as a benti, Sangat ji. As we're about to go to bed, read this as part of your Rakhya de Shabad. Some people do it before. At Nanak Sar Sangat ji, it's read right at the end. So when you actually read the Karon Binanti Sunho Mere Mita Sant Tahal Ki Bella, when you read that Shabad, after reading that Shabad at Nanak Sar, then we read this Salok. We read Sir Mastak Rakhya Par Brahman Hastakaya Rakhya Parmeswara Sarb Rakhya Gurudyale Pa Duk Binasana Pagd Vachal Anath Nate Shar Nanak Purkh Achut Hai. Sangat ji, then we read that as we're going to sleep. Why? It's not a ritual, no. It's a benti. It's saying, protect my entire upper part. What my thoughts are in this brain. Don't let me have dirty thoughts, because then what I look at I will perceive in a dirty way as well. In a filthy way. And then protect my mastak. My mastak means my forehead. Over here, Sangat ji, we'll say here, oh, meri mat mari gayi, don't we? Well, in Punjabi, we say, meri mat mari gayi. We touch our forehead. Mat means my wisdom. Protect the wisdom that goes into here. Allow me to only take my Guru's wisdom. Allow me to only store pure wisdom inside here. Not gand, mand, but my Guru's wisdom. Sir mastak rakhya par Brahman, that you are the one that takes care of those that devote themselves to you. But me, where this Baljit Singh, from where do I speak from? I know I'm not there yet, so I do it as a benti, saying protect my matha, protect my wisdom, protect my head. All of this, what I'm doing with my senses, with my Karma Indri. Karma Indri means action, the sense that does an action. So Sangat ji, and then Sir Mastak Rakhya Par Brahman Hastakaya Rakhya Parmeswara. Protect my hasta, what I do with these hands. Don't let these hands touch something that isn't mine. Don't let these hands do something. Don't let these hands go on the phone and press those buttons that are going to go onto a porn site. Don't let these hands do something that where they are picking something up that isn't mine. Don't let these now protect my hands from touching somebody else's body that isn't my own, that isn't my wife, in that way. Touching somebody in that way. Protect these hands from picking up a glass of beer. Protect these hands from picking up a cigarette. Sangat ji, this is so powerful. This it actually says, I think if I'm not wrong, I read it in the Faridkot Steek. So a very powerful mantra that our Hindu brothers and sisters are given is something called a Gayatri Mantra. Something that they recite that is said to be a very powerful protecting mantra. But for us, Sangat ji, the Faridkot Steek said this is equivalent. It's like that, not comparing in that sense of power, Sangat ji. So don't get into that whole don't get all superstition about this and get me wrong what I'm saying. It's meaning we can take this as that mantra that we say to help us to be protected. Because if we do it consciously, because we've got to actually be doing that ardas, protect my hands. Because if we're not, some people do 250 chope sabs a day. But without dhyan, they're not even doing a benti then. Kabyo baach benti. But it will become my benti and it will happen for me if I actually do the benti, if I'm actually crying from inside and saying, Hamri karo, haath de racha. Give me your hand, I need you to protect me. Because I know, because this is now this comes at the end of Tirtra Pakyan, gone through the 405 tales of how somebody gets caught up in this illusion of lust. And then now I'm begging you, Hamri karo, haath de racha, protect me, give me, Sache Paatshah ji, your hand. Vaheguru ji, it's the same thing here. Sir mastak rakhya par brahmang hastakaya rakhya parmeswara, Hamri karo, haath de racha, pooran hoye chit ki ichha. Allow my inner desire to come true. What is that desire? Tav charnan man rahe hamara, that my mind remains in your feet. Don't let this mind go onto a bed of another. Kite istri de kite sej upar na chal jave, manje upar na kite chal jave, ye kite man eho jiyan jagah upar na chal jave, kite veswa de kol na chal jave. Don't let this mind go to such a place that I'm begging you. Tab charnan man rahe hamara apna jaan karo pratpara. Take me as your own, Vaheguru ji. Manu apna samjhiyo. Meri rakhya karo pratpara. Take care of me, I need you. Hamre dusht sab tumka ho. Destroy these dusht inside of me. Remember the third tap? The third tap is the dusht, is the enemies, is the calm, is the lust, the krodh, the anger. I'm begging you. Hamre dusht sabe tum kaavho, aap haath da mohe bachavho. Give me your hand and save me. Sangat ji, exactly this is what this is. A powerful mantra that we can recite. Protect my upper part, protect my wisdom, protect my hands from where they go. Kaya rakhya, hast kaya rakhya, protect my entire body, what I do with my entire body, where I take this body, what I do with it. Only allow it to go somewhere righteous, where I'm going to do a righteous deed. Sangdija, I'm an open book and I'm very honest, and sometimes I get told off for this, but I'll share this with you. I looked at this Salok yesterday and I thought, I'm not grasping it. I looked at some translations, I'm not grasping it. Today, I continued looking at it, I thought, I'm not getting anything. And literally, probably about half an hour, maybe 20 minutes before the Katha, maybe even about 15 minutes before the Katha, Sanghaji, when sometimes we can read translations, we can do that, but it doesn't become our truth. We might not even understand the translation because it's not become our truth yet. Sanghaji, I was failing. But when failing, har paryo Swami ke dware. Just to make Bani even more real for us. That when do you take over and look after me, Sache Paatshah ji? When I become that deen. When we become that little child, and like that little child from inside was saying, Maharaj, I ain't got a clue. I've tried with my cleverness, and then something just happened. That for me is proof of Vaheguru ji. That for me is darshan of Vaheguru ji. When my intellect doesn't know, I don't understand the translations, I don't get it. This just shows that Vaheguru ji is so close to us. And Vaheguru ji says, chakal, ala. take that, because it's not for you, it's for the Sangat. And you need to give the Sangat something. Because this Katha isn't mine. It's Satguru di daya, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਮਿਹਰ ਆ, it's ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ's ਮਿਹਰ. ਪਿਆਰੋ, ਪਾਠ ਚ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ this will become completely different for me when I recite it now. Atam Rakhya Gopal Swami, Atam, my mind, my intellect, my memory, look after what is stored inside of here. The intellect, my mind, the way I act, the decisions I come to. Make sure you protect the decisions I come to, because that's what intellect means. Gopal Swami, hey Vaheguru Ji, hey oh my master, oh go, Tarti, world, my world, Pal, the one that takes care of me. Look after me, my Swami. Take care of me. Tan Charan, that take care of my wealth. You're the protector of my wealth. You, Vaheguru Ji, you will show me how to use this wealth, how to distribute this wealth, what to do with it. You're the protector of it. Charan, you take care of my feet, of where these feet go. Protect me from making sure that these feet don't go anywhere where they might go, and my faith is broken in you, my Guru. Rakhya Jagdishwara, take care of me, protect me. Sarb Rakhya Gurdayallah, kende, you take care of everyone. When I open myself to your compassion, if I open myself, if I continue to try with my intellect, then I couldn't have experienced Vaheguru Ji's compassion. But when Vaheguru Ji blessed the understanding of this Salok, then I experienced Vaheguru Ji's compassion. Diyallah, pa dukh binasana. You're the one, Vaheguru Ji, protect me, and you're the one that take away my fears, the dukh, the pain of fears. Binasana, you are the one that will destroy them if I call out to you. The moment I surrender to you, it's gone, it's done. I'm just not crawling to you. Bhagat Vachal, Anath Nathe. The moment we become Anath, the moment that I became Anath, when my mind wasn't my master, when the steeks, when the translations I was trying to read wasn't my master, in that moment, then Vaheguru Ji says, look, alright, fair enough. Here, Aja. Because Vaheguru Ji, that's where we experience the love, when we become Deen for that moment. And it doesn't mean that's it now, forever, because this mind is too crazy. As soon as I get off this poti, mind will take me back into my head again. The cleverness will start kicking in again. Because this is how crazy this mind is. Bhagat Vachal Anath Nathe Shar Nanak Purk Achut hai. Hey Sache Padshah, Kirpa Rakhi Padshah, Bhagati da Daan Baksho. Bless us with Prema Bhakti, bless us with that devotional love. That love-filled devotion, let's put it that way. That let me experience your love. How will I experience your love? How will I know that I'm actually doing bhakti? When I experience your love, Vaheguru Ji, then I'll know I'm actually doing bhakti. Because you are the lover of bhakti. Bhagat, tatte no sihari bhakti. Devotion, not devotee. You are the lover of devotion. Anath Nathe, you become the master of those that are masterless. Sharan Nanak Purk Achut hai. Let me remain in your sanctuary and under your protection, Sache Padshah Ji. आओ इतनी एक बेनती प्रवान करनिया, एक नहीं पर अनेक ही गलतियां हो गई, अनजान बच्चा समझ के बख्श देना. आओ बुलाओ फतेह प्यारिओ, गज वज के रल मिल के मैनू सच्चे पातशाह तुसीं हिम्मत बख्शो सेवा करन वास्ते, नाले संगतों तुसीं असीसां बख्शो. मेरियां भुलां ना चितारियो, मेरे औगण ना चितारियो. Don't, Sangat Ji, look at my mistakes, because there's too many. Take pity on me and shower me with your blessings. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh.